I wanted to show you the new exercise. It's not really that new. The more I think about it, I hear it all the time. Like if I ever go to an exercise class, or a lot of the exercise classes, they'll talk about these things, but not in the same way that I learned about them. I went to a kinesiologist on Thursday because I was just hurting so badly. My friend referred me to this kinesiologist, and he shared with me the reason why it's important to breathe. and I understand breathing is it keeps us alive, right? And I understand that it helps us work out. But he explained a few things. So one of them was, again, the importance of having a strong core, which I always, through my whole life, and even up until, just super recently, I just assumed my core was my, six-pack abs that I don't have. Was not yet. Just making sure that my abs were strong and that I had good muscles in my stomach. But your core is actually, it's from here in your mid-back all the way down to, your hamstrings. The glutes, this area, all of this is our core. And it's super important that that's strong because it's the center of our body. And I personally, and I believe maybe a lot of people, and I could be wrong in that, but I do believe that a lot of us, we get to the gym, we get to an exercise class, and we start doing the movements, and because we want to fit in, whether or not, we've done them before or whatever, we try and do the movements as best as possible, which isn't bad necessarily. I mean, we're getting our heart rate up, and we're doing workouts, we're strengthening our muscles. But when we don't already have a strong core and we're not already like connected in the mind to our core, we're doing ourselves a disservice because the very center of our body isn't strong and connected like it should be to be able to support us. And we're injured a lot more easily. And I found too for me that yes, I've gotten more injuries this last year than I've ever had in my whole life, probably because I've been working out more than I ever have in my whole life. And I thought, after a year that I finally would be strong enough and not be injured, but then I injured myself again. So I'm like, okay, what's going on? And this made so much sense to me. So our spine, like down the center of our body, we have our main nervous system, like that's where all the messages to our whole body just travel up and down that all the time. And they're protected by our vertebrae. And our vertebrae have spaces in between each one of them. And so certain movements can expose that nerve bundle and it can get pinched and it can, hurt. So we need to make sure that we're keeping our spine as in alignment as possible so that we aren't exposing those nerves and damaging those nerves. And to do that, our body, we have these little short muscles, and I don't remember what he called them, something like, I'm going to find it. It's like motify, but it's not that. Something like that. They're little tiny muscles. And so on the inside of our spine and on the outside, there's these little spur thingies that poke out. So they're called the infraspinatus and the extraspinatus, or internal spinatus and the external spinatus. And the muscles attach to them. So there's one on the outside and it will attach maybe 2 or 3 vertebrae down on the inside of the next one. And if you've ever seen a picture of the muscular system, you might have seen that they kind of looks like a braid, a French braid on the spine with those muscles. And when those are tight, it keeps our spine safe and it helps to support the muscles that also attach to our core muscles and gives them the support to also be strong. And so he taught me this simple exercise that, again, I've been shown in a few different variations. And I've done it and like, okay, I've got that. And then I move on instead of thinking, oh, this should be something I do often to keep that strong, to keep my mind-body connection. And the other thing that he said that I've heard before and I always rebel against is he said you have to breathe loudly. And I hate to be heard. It's funny because I'm all about finding your voice, and still, if I can be as quiet as possible when when it's not my turn to hold the microphone, quote unquote. I don't like to be heard chewing. I don't like people to hear me breathing. I don't like to hear myself breathing. And so in a workout class, when they're like, breathe loud, I just never do it. Let me hear your breath. I'm like, you can hear everyone else's breath. I'm fine to breathe quiet. Well, this kinesiologist kind of got after me about that. And the breathing, the loud breath is what makes this work, because it works those muscles extra hard. And he just really started to explain to me why that breath is so important, not to just strengthen, but to also connect my mind with my core and with my body. So I'm just going to show you this exercise. Let me find a place to put the phone so that you can see. Put it right here and see what happens. Okay, hopefully it doesn't fall over. It won't. Okay, I'm going to lay flat on my back, but I have my knees up. And then I thought I needed to make my back flat on the floor so that I have this C curve, but he said, no, you need to have your hip bone and this bone all the way through, they need to be like straight through. So there's a little bit of an arch in my back. It's kind of the natural curve of the spine. You know, it has that curve at the bottom that comes up. So that curve needs to be here. And then make sure that my toes and my knees are like parallel and that I'm in alignment all the way up. Sometimes I tend to like be crooked somehow. Like sometimes I'll have my toes turned in. They need to be pointing straight, in alignment with my knees, and in alignment with my hip bones, and in alignment with my shoulders. Everything's all in line. Then take a deep breath, and the breath needs to start here and then come up all the way into my rib cage. And so, this is where I love to breathe deep when I'm by myself. So here we go. I'm just going to breathe in. And then, so, excuse me, as I'm doing that, I have my hip bone and my sits bones in alignment here. And then I have my rib cage is open, excuse me, and my chin is down. So I have all kinds of room here. So I forgot to mention that. So, and then as loudly as I can, and as I'm doing that, I'm squeezing all of these muscles that are inside, like the inner muscles, tightly together. And it kind of naturally happens when you breathe loudly like that. So, and do this as many times as possible. And the crazy thing is it's very fatiguing, at least for me, because I'm not used to doing this. It's fatiguing quite quickly. So take in another breath. Squeeze it all the way out. Staying tight, breathe in again. And it's cool. So if you'll do it, you'll be able to feel those muscles working. You'll be able to feel those muscles tight.